Alright mate, you've only gone and tuned in to another Omniverse Comics Guide podcast. I'm Dave, and this is one of our Collector's Items special episodes. In these we normally invite one guest to delve into their comic collection and share some of their favourite items. But this time around, we have two guests. First up, an artist who covers every detail. You'll recognise his intricate lines and glorious colours from 2000 AD, Realm of the Damned, and now Image's Petrol Head. Joining him is the writer of Petrol Head, who's also known for Suicide Squad, Star Wars Rebellion, Judge Dredd, and Class War. Welcome to the Omniverse, Pye Parr and Rob Williams. Both of you worked on 2000 AD and worked at Rebellion. Did you cross over there, or was it more recent?
Not, in no way other than socially, really.
Right.
I think, I kind of met, because when I worked at 2000 AD, it was generally always as the graphic designer. So, I kind of never directly worked with people other than putting their books together or whatever,
Yeah.
However, you do get invited along to go and get drunk with them.
Well, that's got to be good.
Yeah,
We find out all sorts of stuff. Did you have access to like some of their older files? Didn't you get a chance to look through some of the stuff they had in the archives?
Yeah. They've got a huge archive of all the old film and some original art and all this. It's pretty amazing. Well, I haven't been there for a while, but it was in a bit of a state to start with, though. So they made a concerted effort to try and sort it out, but trying to identify one piece of, let's say, the magenta slide from page 14 of a prog from 35 years ago is quite a hard task. So, sometimes it's very obvious. So it says the prog number or it's like a famous story, but there's loads of backup stuff. So a lot of it's all just squashed together, and occasionally it'll get found, but it never really all got sorted out. It's a bit of a shame.
They've spent the Rebellion offices now in Oxford. They've spent quite a lot of money on a kind of an archive, a proper. I was taken in there to have it show them something. I forget what, and sort of So I don't know if they've got everything.
No, I think it has changed because the bit that was like a big storage area, they all moved into and turned it into offices. So, and I haven't been back since they've done that. I think the massive cost of my wages was such that after I left, they use it to renovate the building.
Yeah, well, it was probably they conditioned the archive and everything, and really to protect the pages and everything. So I think there's
of course, yeah.
They've taken it quite seriously, I think.
Oh, good.
That's
because before that they were in this absolute shed, and it used to leak, and loads of it got water damaged when it was just raining. And the nature of the film is such that it just sort of it sticks to each other if it gets wet. So it was a bit of a tragedy, that was.
Of course it does. Yeah, it's fun actually. So the first of Pye, the first work of yours that I saw was some of the stuff that you had published in 2000 AD. It was like the little tablet robots.
The Intestinauts.
Intestinauts, yeah. And I thought it just looked so cool. And your style was, oh man, that was it, straight off. As soon as I saw it, loved it. And of course, seeing your art on Petrol Head, it feels like it's moved really far forward. But still, even then, the theme for your art, I can see, is like that color and detail is just, I'm quite envious of what you can do.
Thank you. Yeah, like Petrol Head's a bit more like a sort of, I don't want to say grown up because it's a very similar vibe, but it's like a sort of more advanced version of Intestinauts in that it is just sort of robots and art and kind of adventure stories. They do share some DNA, I think.
Didn't you? Wasn't your first published work Realm of the Damned?
No, I think I did Intestinauts before Realm of the Damned. But that was the first thing I did after I went freelance. So
right,
that was the job that allowed me to work for myself, really, rather do art full time, because it was such a big thing that it was I couldn't have ever done it if I had a full time job. So
right, going back then to not just you getting into comics, but you getting into comics as a person. What drew you to the medium?
I don't know what was the film. I used to read the Beano. I remember, I always wanted to be a comic artist, and I read the Beano. I wanted to draw the Beano, and then you started getting our old Batmans when it was like the sort of English reprints of Batman.
Yeah,
and I didn't know at the time, but they were the ones that like John Wagner and Alan Grant were writing, and Norm Brayfogle. So kind of The same goes, I would go on to read when I started buying 2000 AD, which is W.H. Smith. So I think 2000 AD was the one that really was like, hold on, this is, that's who I want to work for.
These are proper comics for
exactly. Yeah.
grown children. Rob, how about yourself? When did you get into comics as a fan?
I think it was always there when I was little. I can't remember sort of one sort of pivotal sort of thing. I don't know. I was given hand-me-downs from a lady who lived up the road whose son used to get the Victor book for boys, which is like showing my age. And then there was someone my mum used to work with, I think, used to give her old Marvel comics and things. So there's just I just remember there being comics in the house and me just loving reading. And then once you got to probably about 10 or so, I'm probably getting, Roy of the Rovers, and I'm probably getting Wizard and Chips and things
oh my
like
God,
that.
I remember that. Wizard and Chips.
And then, of course, I think 83, I think, when I was about 12, I started getting 2000 AD and weekly. And from there it was like, it sort of took off from there. But I've said this before, but I grew up in the South Wales Valley, so there's no comic shops. So you'd go to news agents, and occasionally there'd be like some DC comics there. But apparently they were genuinely brought over as ballast on ships.
Yes, this is true. Yeah.
So what you would get, you wouldn't get a regular order. So you would read you'd read one issue, and it would have this amazing cliffhanger, and you'd be like, "Oh my God, I've got to get the next issue," and just no chance of getting the next issue. So there was all these little, incomplete little snippets of American comics would occasionally come through, until probably when I was about 15, and then that's when I started, going to comic shops.
So that's when they started opening. What year was it they started opening? Did you find? Was that like early 90s?
Comic shops. The first comic shop I went to was in '86 on a day trip to Bristol, and it was Forever People in Bristol, which was an amazing shop. And I lost my mind. I just remember I'd never been in a comic shop before, and I just like, oh my God, there's shops with just that's it. And I came home. I still got them with like 2 issues of Watchmen and 2 issues of The Dark Knight Returns. I think
wow.
Because they just come out, they were current at the time, so that was a pretty decent sort of comic shop.
That's quite the beginning.
Yeah, and then there was a place in Cardiff I went to for years, in Jacob's Market, which is still there, which is an antiques market, and it's just hidden away, and it's and there you could actually order American comics. It was like, oh my God, I can actually finally, after all these years, I can get them every month.
Yeah. That was funny. We did used to get a lot of the reprint books here, didn't we? Otherwise, because I remember I used to get the Return of the Jedi series with which had the Star Wars reprints in order, and then like the Secret Wars series from Marvel, which had that series, but also later on they had like issues of Iron Man and stuff thrown in, and that's all we tended to get for a long time.
We'd get black and white. Yeah, we'd get black and white reprints of the American stuff, but it's. But like I say, I genuinely just always. I think I had a few years in the '90s where I kind of ducked out of comics for a few years for some reason, but didn't last long when I came back in.
Yeah, I did the same with alcohol.
That's right.
I can't afford to drink and read.
Stop playing Warhammer and then come back to it for 10 years. 10 years later, that's why. It's like
I did a year and had withdrawal symptoms. Like, what's Hulk doing? I miss him.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, I think I disappeared and went off and just. Yeah, it was probably when I was in college, and I was interested in other things for a few years, but it didn't last.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's have a little look at some of the comics you've chosen, because that'll no doubt dive into the past a little bit. So are these predominantly your choices, Pye?
Well, I think Rob's got several ones to me, but yes, I've kind of just gone. No, Rob chose the categories, if that's what you mean.
Oh, right, got you. Okay, so one of you's going to say what they are, and the other person's going to take the piss if they're bad. Is that what? Is that the plan?
I've just got a pile of comics I dug out for the categories, so I wasn't sure of the format. So let's
just see what we get. And
have you got the same there? Have you got a pile of comics there?
I've got a big pile of stuff. Yeah.
Don't show me. Don't show me. Right then. Okay. Well, let's start then with a complete set
Oh, no, I haven't got an example of that, purely because I was just going to tell you, because obviously having worked at 2000 AD for 13 years, I've got every graphic novel I ever put out for 13 years on the trot. And I only recently got rid of them because I just the thought of moving house and moving them again was too much. I've kept some stuff, so like complete collection. So the Jed Mega collection they did, like the part work one. So I've got all 90 volumes of that because I kept that because that was like the last thing I did for them. And but it's like I can't get it out. I mean, it's like twice as long as the shelf behind me if you put it in a row. And I had all the case, but I like everything. So I've got a select few, but I have kept certain complete.
You could have for the episode, dude. Come on, next. Drag them out.
I've got what did I get? I dug out for a complete set. I've got like every episode of Why the Last Man apart from issue 1, which I used to have.
Mate, I've got issue 1.
What happened? There you go.
That's the only one of Why the Last Man I've got. Do you want it?
Yes. You got it?
Yeah, if I can find it, I'll send it to you. You can have it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That would be awesome. Look what's just happened. Magic.
This is magic in the making. Comic magic in the making.
Yeah, but I always had, like, this was a really key comic for me, was the Daredevils, which came out in about,
my God.
I don't know, 80, I'm going to say 84, maybe. And
yeah.
And basically what it had was, like, it's a British reprint, and it had Frank Miller's Daredevil stuff, which was reprinted in black and white, which was I'd never read and was just blew my mind. And it's got Alan Moore and Alan Davis's Captain Britain. So I had every issue bar, I don't know, 1 or 2, and then about last year at some point I was eBay trolling and I went, oh, go on, and I just bought the last one. So for no reason other just to be sad and complete the set.
Completism, yeah. I've never read Captain Britain. Is it good?
Oh, it's so much fun.
God, it's one of the Alan Moore, Alan Davis Captain Britain is genuinely one of the best comics. It's one of my favorite comics of all time. It's just another level.
It's something else. It really is.
I'll have to change that then. I'll educate myself.
Yeah, it's worth the read. I must admit, I always get shouted down for this. I'm not the biggest Alan Moore fan, but his Captain Britain, I absolutely love it.
It's got so many great moments in it, and it's about the same time when it's exactly the same time he was doing DR and Quinch and Halo Jones in 2000 AD, which is why I think I picked up Daredevils for the first time. And then he's and Alan Davis is just is so good in it as well. It's just before he goes off to America, and it's a fantastic comic.
It's incredibly dark though, isn't it? For what in theory, like the 80s kids comics rack. It's very dark.
Britain, basically, and it's very about Britain turning into an authoritarian state, sort of, and there's a mad Jim Jaspers is a conservative MP. I don't think it's stated he's conservative, but he's palpably a conservative toff MP. And he looks a bit like sort of Farage if you squint. But he's got reality-altering powers. And it's got like the best... He's a great villain, but then it's got the Fury.
Yeah.
One of the greatest villains of all time. It's just like a machine.
Is that a big block-headed thing with like...
Yeah, it's kind of stumpy looking, like it's got a stump arm, but it's like terrifying. It looks like a charred corpse almost.
Yeah, okay, yes, it's not quite like I remember.
So he and the Fury just has been created just for one reason only, is to kill superheroes, which it does amazingly well, and it just can't be reasoned with, can't be stopped. Alan Moore and Alan Davis did the Fury before James Cameron did the Terminator, and I've got no way of proving it, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if James Cameron read this and kind of went, okay, because it's kind of a similar kind of vibe.
Well, they said the same about Deathlock and RoboCop, didn't they?
Yeah, well, RoboCop rips off Judge Dredd, of course.
Easily.
Yeah, but
you ever seen that sort of background production picture where there's like they go through the thing where they're sort of trying to come up with a sculpt for RoboCop's helmet, and there's literally a mannequin of Dredd in the background.
No, really?
Yeah.
With the same well, it's a sculpt. Initially, they do a sculpt of this Dredd's helmet, isn't it? And it's just the same cross over the eyes.
Yeah, that's a point.
And someone obviously went, "That'll be a lawsuit. Change it."
So you showed off that cover from the Daredevils with that Fury on. So with that theme in mind, could you share with us another one of your favourite covers?
This is one of the first comics I bought of 2000 AD, and it's the Kev O'Neill, Alan Moore's Twisted Times, and you can't see this on there, but like it's so dented from me having traced it multiple times as a young teenager. Like it's frankly ruined. But like, yeah, the black outline is just completely embossed where I've tried to copy it so many times. But it's got like, it's got, if you look at like, it's a crazy looking robot. There's lurid colours all over the place. There's space stuff. I mean, that was quite influential, I think.
That was a surreal looking cover. Sorry.
One of the things I love about Kev O'Neill's work, we were talking about this. I did a sign-in in London with a few other artists a couple of weeks back.
Yeah.
And for some reason, it came up. He's the only artist, apparently, his entire style was banned by the Comics Code for being perverse or something. So it wasn't like one thing he drew. His overall aesthetic was banned as being...
It's true.
It's amazing.
Do you reckon that's why he went ahead and did stuff like martial law? Because who did he even do that for? Was that over here first?
No, I think martial law was didn't he do it for Epic in Marvel? I believe.
Oh yeah, you could be right.
When Marvel did Epic, which was their adult version of
Vertigo, pre-Vertigo, wasn't it?
It might have been printed somewhere else before, but that's my memory.
But,
no, I think Kev just seemed to have quite a perverse sense of humor. Which anyone, you just have to read Nemesis.
So they're re-releasing that soon as well, by the looks of it, which is quite
looks gorgeous as well. That does, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, seen the hardcover. To say it that their new designers are excellent, but their new designers have done a really nice job.
Bastards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking about getting that. I must admit, in the 2000 AD stakes, I'm almost virginal.
Right.
I've read so little, and it's shameful. So we go to Comic Cons and we talk about the stuff we do on the Omniverse Comics Guide, and they go, "Do you do any 2000 AD stuff?" Like, no. So there's a massive blind spot, and even though I'm from this country, it was one of those things that somehow just never made it in front of me. So even
it always seems to me to be a slightly non-comic-y comic because it's sold in Smiths,
Yeah, that's a point.
It's never sort of sold or collected in the same way, so.
Yeah,
it's weird.
My cover, so this is probably my favorite cover of all time, and then the original art from it came up for sale about 2 years ago, and I had delusions of grandeur, and I thought I might put a cheeky bid in on it and just kind of maybe I can sneak it, and I kept an eye on it, and then the last time I looked, it was like upwards of £10,000. I said, well, possibly not then, but I got the Bolland Apex edition.
Nice.
And I don't know if you can see this, but this is an insane cover.
Almost.
There you go. It's that one.
Oh, wow.
All those ones that Brian Bolland did for the Eagle Comics things are amazing.
Just extraordinary, I know. But it's also what I love about it. It's just whoever wrote the cover dialogue is just an absolute genius. It's this massive plant monster that's eating 1 million people. It looks the most terrifying thing. And Dredd is pointing his lawgiver up at it, and Dredd's saying, "Come quietly, or else there'll be trouble." Which is kind of like the tone of the strip as well. Is right there, but it's the most beautiful cover. Unfortunately, I had to make do with that. I could barely afford that, let alone the bloody original art.
I think that's still a win, though. It still counts. And Brian Bolland just never misses.
He's very good. Yeah, those Eagle covers he did for Pye says. And it's just a classic after a classic after a classic.
Yeah, every single one's fantastic. There's the one with this the car, and he's stood on the car windscreen shooting into it, and all of them are just better than all the 2000 AD covers he did. I think, really.
Yeah.
But didn't they used to do this thing with 2000 AD where they wouldn't credit the creators in case they got pilfered?
No,
certainly that was just I think that was just sort of industry
true?
Standard a few years ago, really.
Oh, yeah.
Really.
Yeah, going back, there's a lot of. I mean, British comics at the press. Before a certain point, the creators were not. But I think 2000 AD was always kind of good for little credit boxes. I think.
Yeah, I think they had to fight for them, but that was all the way from the start. Yeah, they were credited, and occasionally they'd have pseudonyms, but that was only so they could hide that the same three guys were writing everything.
Look at the array of talent we have.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well. I mean, you were talking about some of the stuff you've tracked down, which is half the fun of being into comics, I think. But let's have a look at a holy grail or real precious item that you've managed to find.
Well, I mean, these are kind of pretty esoteric, but that's all part of it, right? I mean, I tracked on this. This is Star Spangled War, okay? And I bought this off eBay because it's got a beautiful Joe Kubert cover, by the way. Joe Kubert was amazing, but it's got this Alex Toth backup war story called White Devil, Yellow Devil, and it's the most beautiful. It's just great. I mean, like, Toth is just a bona fide comics genius, and just like there's not a bad. You can't draw a panel which doesn't look like the perfect choice.
Because what year is that from?
Well, this is like these are DC War comics back in the
late 60s.
This is
early 70s, maybe
72.
Right.
But Toth is just someone, the more the older I get, the more I just kind of look at his stuff and it just blows me away more than most artists. But there's a simplicity in his choices and in his lines, but all the choices seem perfect, basically. So there's that. And then what was another thing I dug out was like, this is one of the first. There's a two-parter. I was saying about like not getting these DC comics, and you never got the other part. Yeah. So this was one of the first comics I ever. Actually, the one after this was one of the first comics I had.
Right.
All-Star Comics with the Super Squad, and because of the wonders of eBay, I thought, I'll actually buy the other part. Finally, like 4 decades on or 5 decades on.
Can you remember what happened in the first part?
What happened. It's slightly underwhelming, I have to say.
That's part of the charm of being that age, though, when you can't really get everything. Is this? I remember like going back to 2008. I think my pocket money was 50p, and it was 52p, so I couldn't quite afford it every week.
No, could have bartered for the extra 2p.
Scrounging down the back of the city to get it weekly, and. But I remember there's various stories that kind of end up with this sort of slightly mythic quality, because you never get to find out what happens until years later. And it wasn't until I started working there that I just go, hold on, I can go back and find all these old sort of things that I missed. And some of them are absolutely dreadful as well. You think, why was I waited 20 years for this?
I had no idea who the Super Squad were, but I remember when I was about, however old I was, like 7, 8 or something. And at the end, they went, the cliffhanger was, oh my God, Dr. Fate is dead. And I was going, I don't know who Dr. Fate is, but this seems really important. I need to know.
Must have closure on.
Yeah, and I finally did get closure, but it took 40-odd years to actually get it. But yeah.
Funnily enough, I think I've just ended up getting, if not that issue, I just got a book with those issues from that era in, and I know they're probably going to be terrible, but I've got this sudden soft spot for pre-crisis DC, and I don't know why. There's just something kind of weirdly charming about it.
Oh, hugely. And there's some amazing stuff in it, because this one is drawn by Keith Giffen and a very young Keith Giffen, I presume, and Wally Woods. And then the second part there is a kid. I think I might be right in saying it's entirely Keith Giffen, and Keith Giffen is a really, really good artist. People associate him with writing with Justice League International and stuff like that. But people kind of forget just super talented artists as well.
That's the thing. I think in more recent years, you're right. He's tended to. I mean, he's even written some of the biggest stuff like Marvel's cosmic stuff. I think Annihilation was largely written by him. That's 2006. I say recent. 2006 probably isn't that recent at this point.
Yeah,
feels recent to me.
Great writer as well. But he did Legion of Superheroes and.
Yes.
And a cracking sort of one of my favorite comic runs is they did he and J.M. DeMatteis, I think, did a miniseries of Dr. Fate in the mid-80s. Great. And then Mark DeMatteis and I forgot the name of the artist, Sean McManus. Yeah. Really fantastic, which is one of my favorite comic runs. It was quite big influence on me as a writer, that run, I think. Yeah.
I'm hoping they start collecting some of that stuff up again, because it's quite hard to track some of this down. I mean, I'm a big collected editions person, and it's just nice to see some of these books in that format. you know,
Yeah,
recommend
I
the
think I
show.
spoke online on Twitter or something to Mark DeMatteis about how much I liked that run, and he said, "Yeah, DC have never collected it." I think he said.
Incidentally, so speaking about Petrol Head, do you want to give us a quick overview of what it's about?
It is about a race of racing robots in the future who get made obsolete because technology moves on, and they're all petrol. You know, our main character is a robot called Petrol Head who actually belches petrol out of his head. So there's been a climate emergency crisis, and all of humanity is trapped away in sort of these bubbled cities. And then a scientist and his daughter, called her name's Looper. The scientist thinks that he has got a cure for the climate emergency, and they go on the run from the robot authorities who don't want them to release this cure. And they end up hiding out in Petrol Head's garage. And this obsolete old racing robot who is like an old heavyweight boxer. He won't go in the ring anymore. He's not gonna get involved, and suddenly he's forced to do what he does best, which is drive. And from that point on, it's a sci-fi road movie and racing movie, and it's sort of Fast and the Furious with robot drivers, I guess.
The designs for these characters as well are just gorgeous looking. Again, that hyper detail style and the machine stuff that you do, Pye, in terms of your vehicles. I mean, cars are the thing I've always dreaded drawing, but you just seem to relish it. Or are you just punishing yourself? Which is it?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Me and Rob had a conversation about, you sure you want to show an entire sort of W12 with superchargers without? Can you just put a bonnet on that? It might save you a bit of time. No, it'll be fine. Sort of 15 cars later, I'm just like crying at having to draw like circles and circles and circles. But no, I do quite enjoy drawing cars, and so it's a story that's sort of made for me, really, like tech, robots, and vehicles, and it's good.
Oh yeah, because I saw some of your Transformers prints as well. Jazz and Wheeljack, and I should have got hold of those. I don't know if they're still about, but I need to get.
I still have copies of both of them available on my web shop. If you or anyone else would like to buy one.
Good advert. There we go.
Yeah,
I had a great time reading that first issue, and I'm desperate to see where it goes. Do you think you'll continue? I know you're just working on wrapping it up. Do you think you'll continue past issue 4 if you can?
This. Go on, I'm sorry.
We've definitely got issue 5. I mean, we plan to, we hope to. That's every intention. It's I guess we just have to see how sales go. But we both. There is definitely there's not just plans. We've talked about doing more. There is story plans for more as well. So
right.
All being well, we'll sell enough and we can keep going.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I'm so desperate to do more, really, because I just love doing it. But as you say, it's kind of the way the market is. If it makes enough money, we'll carry on, and if it doesn't, then we won't be able to, which will be a shame, and I'll be gutted about that. But go out and buy it, and then we can keep on going. That's
exactly, and it's highly, highly, highly recommended from the Omniverse. People need to pick it up. It's a really fun read. I love the way that main character is just, he doesn't quite do what kind of where it's going to go, but he doesn't quite do it the way you expect him to do it, and that's a nice little touch.
That's right. He sort of subverts your expectations a few points for considering he's the good guy. You're like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
He's a very grumpy good guy, but he's got said elsewhere, he's kind of like the Han Solo archetype in A New Hope. Really, is just like you kind of go, he's not, there's a good heart in there, but he's grumpy and not very pleasant to be around. It does a few things make you in issue 1 make you go, oh, okay, he's not really the good guy after all. But he comes around. He comes around.
Yeah, I thought he reminded me a bit of Ben Grimm. Really, that's what it made me think of, just because I guess his size and the grumpiness, but like classic Ben Grimm. And you've also got a tick called Dave, which harsh. All right.
No, it's Dave is like a little robot bird who is Petrol Head's best mate, and Petrol Head made him. But Dave is also like, he's very sarcastic and quite funny, and we love Dave. But Dave's also really kind of like Petrol Head's conscience. So it's just Petrol Head created his own little Jiminy Cricket conscience.
That's cool.
To call him when he's being a bit too grumpy, which Dave does. So there's a line, I forget which issue it's in, 3 or 4, where Looper says to Dave and Petrol Head, "You're like an old married couple," which is kind of they are. It's a bit like
just sort of bickering. Yeah,
they're just a little double act. They've been together too long.
No, it really works. They're just a fun pair of characters to watch. Petrol Head is due out very shortly. So shall we have another look at a current read that you're both liking that maybe isn't that for the minute?
Okay. Current read. I've got a few things I'm reading currently. So I'm reading that Barry Windsor Smith's Monsters, which is great because like I kind of I never really read very much American comics, but there's a few sort of artists I really like, and I've read. Somebody gave me his thing. Was it Weapon X? He did.
Yes. Yes.
And I thought, oh man, it's good.
And
I could get some more. And then I know that when I was thinking that, I noticed that he actually had a book out, and he'd been quietly beavering away on, presumably in a cave for 20 years or however long it was. So yeah, I'm about halfway through that. And then what else am I reading at the minute? Oh, this is great as well.
I haven't seen that. What's that?
That is
Rising.
Yeah, it's the guy. I can't remember the guy's real name. It's Death Burger on Instagram.
Oh God,
Hosan.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Anyway, what I love about this is because I mean, his art is just gorgeous, and it comes with loads of stickers and sort of a little map, and then like the book's beautiful. And what I love about it is that it's kind of a mixture of like an art book and a comic, and that was sort of quite inspirational, really. So it's like you kind of got these sequential pages, but so many of them are just full page illustrations, really. And there's no dialogue. It just goes on and on and on. It's fantastic.
Okay, that looks good.
It looks incredible. So I've been following his stuff, but I was trying to figure out if there was a book coming or what was coming.
Yeah, if you go on his shop, it's just for sale, and like there's he's got some free downloads of some of his stuff as well. So I mean,
what's he called? Death Burger.
Death Burger, yeah.
Okay.
He does like loads of posters and stuff like that, which is how I got onto him. And then, yeah, this is like I said, I can't remember. I'm gonna find his real name. Hold on.
But that so the first one, Monsters, it's a really dense read, isn't it? It's quite
and it feels kind of very old school as well, actually, in the way that it's just like it's just good guys and bad guys doing stuff. You know, there's like the bad guys are bad guys. There's no sort of moral ambiguity about it.
Well, I think it was based on an issue of Incredible Hulk that he'd written a script.
Oh, really? Okay.
It was about I believe so. I think it was about the origin he was going to give to the Hulk, and then he gave it to the editor, and then the editor put it in a drawer. So thanks very much. And then a writer at Marvel at the time basically robbed it, and then wrote an issue of the Hulk based on that. It was Bill Mantler. Bill Mantler used to be renowned for stealing other people's ideas.
Oh, really? Right.
Yeah, he did that. He basically took it, and Barry Windsor Smith had sat on it for a long time, and then he ended up turning it into his own story. And I think he worked on that for about a decade. It was a long period.
Yeah. So yes, I don't know how far. I'm fairly far through it, but I've not finished yet. Yes, it's beautiful.
Stuff. Yeah, no, it definitely is. How about yourself, Rob?
What am I reading now? I'm reading. I read most recently. I bought that, which is the Raphael Grampa Batman. Which is very nice looking, heavily stylized, and yes, it's good. Art wise, it's kind of look about it. And then I've been slowly kind of read. I was bought this as a gift, but
oh my God!
But it's
yes, I almost bought my copy out as well.
But I mean, just the art is just extraordinary, really. I mean, it's so cinematic, and it's you can see Paul Pope is a big influence on the artist, but I'm not aware of what the artist's done elsewhere. But
it's Robert Samerlin, so
he does poster work and stuff, doesn't he? I think
that's right. That's right. Yeah. So for anyone listening and not watching, it's this is Carly by Robert Samerlin and Daniel Friedman, who we've had Daniel Friedman on before. Because last year, Carly won our book of the year. Basically, it was our number one book.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So I read it. I was really excited to get hold of it, And then I thought, I'm just going to have a quick read and then I'll get on with the rest of my evening. And then that was it. I was just in.
Yeah.
I didn't eat until I finished. Like, I just fell in love with it. It's just an intense, like, road movie. Absolutely love it. And I don't shut up about it.
The art's amazing, but the colours on it are just...
Yeah, I find the colours extraordinarily depressing on that. In that, like, because you kind of, there's just so much done with sort of not with very little, lots of fairly flat tones, and just using the right colour in as opposed to what I do, which is using every colour.
That's what my mate calls all the crayons.
One of the things I love about this as well is, like, I mean, obviously it's you kind of go, oh, it's okay, it's a hot female assassin. Okay, we've seen that a billion times before, but he does draw her. I mean, there's something like she looks like a real person as opposed to, that overly stylized. It's a beautiful looking book. People should, and the format as well is amazing from Dark Horse. I mean, it's just,
he didn't know it was going to be that big, but he wanted it to stand tall above the other books. But even when I was looking through it online,
so it's actually proportionally different rather than just being
So this is like a standard trade paperback, and you see it's like considerably larger.
Yeah, similar width,
considerably larger. So it does stand tall, and I've seen it in shots with people in comic shops. You can see her just like,
just the head over the tire.
Yeah. Well, they were calling it butt holster as well. It kept, like, it had the hashtag butt holster when it came out, just because, like, everyone was obsessed over it. And while it's got like a kind of inherent sexiness to it, it's almost like her toughness that brings it more so than someone drawing lithe women in suggestive poses, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, she does look like she looks.
And she get absolutely battered throughout it as well. I mean, it's just pretty brutal. Yeah.
But it's just such a fun book for something that is that brutal. It's a fun read.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a good choice. I'm really chuffed that that you've mentioned that. So to finish up, could you show me something that you highly recommend?
Well, I mean, the last couple of years, the comics that has got me most excited about them is this. There's an Italian artist and writer called Gippy. And Fantagraphics sort of translated a bunch of his stuff. And it's just extraordinary. He's done a bunch of books where this is Land of the Suns is all black and white, and it's very kind of this kind of style. And Land of the Suns is basically some kind of apocalypse, and there's just a family living on on swamplands on a barge, and they're just trying to stay alive.
Is it silent?
No, it's not. A lot of it is, but there is dialogue. But I mean, I can't do justice to it. His stuff it gets me in the hearts, basically, in all my hearts, as Gronk used to say. But as good as his black and white stuff is, and it is amazing, he does this kind of watercolory type of effect at times, and it's just, I've got to find, it's just absolutely beautiful. And what he does,
that guy's face is fab, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, it's the best faces, but it's just, I mean, what he does with light when he does color, is just floors me, and he tells really great stories as well. So I would heartily recommend picking up anything you can by Gippy. There's a fantastic I got down there.
How'd you come across him, Rob?
Oh, I can't remember. A few people recommended his stuff. So this is a one-off crime thing he did. If you can track me, I got this off eBay. And it's just two low-key assassins just sent out on a job to kill a guy. And basically, the best comics I've read in probably about the last 5-10 years of probably Gippy. And I'm always trying to track down more of his stuff translated into English, because not all of his stuff has been translated into English. But he just does, his stuff is just so good.
That one's They Found the Car. What were the other two called?
This one's called One Story.
Yeah.
And then this is called Land of the Suns. And you can get a bunch of these like on Amazon if you can't find them on your local comic shops or something. But yeah, he's a bit of a genius, I think.
Wow. I'll have to have a look for that. Nice, thank you. Pye, have you got a
I'm going to go back to 2000 again because I sort of I stopped reading it for a little bit after I'd left. You sort of don't pick it up as much as I used to. But the one thing I did go back to, and I cannot get enough of, is Brink, which I absolutely love. It's like there's like 4 books of it, so there's loads of it.
Who's that by?
I think Ian Kungbard is a bit of a genius, and it's going back to Carly. It's a sort of similar thing to that where he does not a lot of colours, do a lot of work, but his whole art style is like that. Really, he's kind of so minimal, but then it's just
oh wow,
it's really
beautiful.
Anyway, so it's like a sort of Lovecraftian space opera.
Wow. Who's the writer on that?
Dan Abnett.
Oh, it is Dan. I thought I saw that. I've seen that while scrolling. And I have kind of hovered on it. So yeah, I think that'll give me the push.
I really enjoy. I sort of I think there's a 4th one out now which I've not got, but I couldn't stop reading it. I just had to have all of them.
So is that a serial in 2000 AD and they've collected?
Yeah. So periodically it's in there, but I just got the collected ones. Yeah,
nice,
very good.
Oh, that's cool. It's good to have some really different stuff. There's some really nice stuff between the two of you that you're into. Is it making you reassess your art style, Pye, basically seeing all these artists?
Oh no, I have this
getting away with so little.
I have like this sort of crisis of confidence about my colouring periodically anyway, just because it takes so fucking long. And every time I look at something like this, I think, I should just do it all flat and it would look lovely. And then, as soon as you start putting highlights on and making things glow, then I get carried away again and keep on going.
Except who you are.
I think bad writing is far more inspirational because you read something bad and you kind of go, I can do that. When you read something that's really genuinely good, you go, oh God, what am I doing with my life? You just go,
absolutely. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. I was going to say, what was the last bad thing, but that's put you on the spot.
Yeah, let's not go there.
Let's not go there.
We extracized from the let's commit career suicide right now.
Yeah. That's true. We'll leave that one. You did ask, we normally do 5 and we've done 5 and there's been some fantastic stuff in there, but you did ask if you could have a gamble that paid off.
Yeah, this is a shameless plug for Petrol Head, basically.
It hasn't paid off yet.
No.
It will, damn it.
I mean, the fact that it got commissioned is the sort of payoff, I suppose. But basically, the whole reason that the Petrol Head started is because I got sick of. I was doing terrible freelance work that was just like soul-destroying stuff during lockdown, and I was like, why am I even doing? I wasn't actively chasing any work that I wanted to do. I was just waiting for stuff to turn up, and I was slowly getting funneled down a hole of just sort of corporate design and illustration I didn't give a shit about. And I thought, right, I'm going to take 2 weeks out, damn the money, and I'm going to draw something that I want to do. That I'm not going to get paid for 2 weeks, but I'm just going to spend some time doing it. So I did these sort of car posters, and they ended up being the thing that Rob saw and said, "Oh, this looks really good. Do you want to turn it into a comic?" And it also inspired the guy who I did some art for a board game this year as well. And they were the inspiration for that as well. The guy was, let's make a board game about cars. So absolutely a gamble that paid off.
Was
two
that
weeks paid work, and that's basically filled this whole year.
Oh, wow.
So
that's really cool. It's always worth taking the chances, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's hard because I was just lucky enough to be in the situation where I had enough money that I could take 2 weeks off, because if I was that much hand to mouth, it would be impossible.
There is that. Yeah, there is that. Was that the so I actually have it on my screen from earlier. Was that the kinetic buffer and destruction diamond?
Yeah, those are the ones. Yeah, the yellow and the blue and the green one. Yeah,
that's so nice.
And actually, saying that, those also probably helped get me the job doing those Transformers posters you mentioned earlier, because they're a very similar layer. So I just do what you love and hope and do a good job of it, and things come.
It. Yeah, I think what was it?
I always say that if I was saying to an artist this week actually, I said, well, what do you want to draw? Because I mean, it's like if you're going to spend all that time, hunched over a board or a tablet or whatever it is, you don't want to be drawing stuff you hate and stuff, do you? So
No.
you might as just follow. But I think it's true of just with writing as well. It's just like, follow your passions, and it'll show through in your work. I think, hopefully.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's difficult, isn't it, when you get sort of funneled down? Because that's the situation I just ended up in, where it's like, if you get a break in a certain area, the practicalities of paying the bills mean it is hard to sort of change the course that you're on. Yeah.
One of the things you were mentioning there was like, looking at what you've done, being proud of what you've done and putting everything into it. And even if I'm doing something like design wise that's really low key, I want to make sure it looks great.
Yeah, that's right. You never know who's going to see anything, so you can't really phone anything in. Which again is one of the worst things about having to do jobs you don't like, because you have to still care about them. Because if the wrong person looks at it, then they're going to write you off.
Yeah, and do you find that's true of writing as well? Then, Rob, do you think that?
I mean, probably. I mean, but it's. I was talking to who will remain nameless, a quite well-known comic writer as a friend. And I was saying, we were talking about the fact when you write comics, if you write novels or screenplays, you go, I'm writing this one thing, and you spend however long, maybe a year, maybe sort of 8 months on your one thing. And we're writing comics. It's a weird art form where you have to make a living. You have to keep writing every week, different things. You know what I mean? And very often it'll be like, well, pitch us a new idea. And you think, well, I haven't got a bloody idea. Come up with one. So I guess you do get lulls of sort of ups and downs of sort of like, you're more inspired by one story. You think, oh, I'm for whatever reason, I'm hitting all, I feel like I'm hitting all cylinders here. And on another story, you're there going, I'm not feeling this, but you've got to hit the deadline. And I guess that's just being creative and being human. We all have that, but it is nice when you do feel like, no, this is working and it's all, but that's relatively rare. But actually, I mean, genuinely, hand on heart, it is true of Petrol Head. While I do my horrible shilling back to Petrol Head. It's just like Petrol Head's just been like one of those jobs where it's just like, no, it's just fun. And I think that shows through in it. So as long as that continues.
It absolutely shows through. It's a fun read. It's fun to look at. It's for everything about it is great. And when I finish that, I find the first issue is really weird because on average, I find that a first issue kind of hits like a fairly average score. It's rare that a first issue is like, yes, or like a 5-star single first issue because you haven't had time yet to get into the characters. But I read it and I was so happy reading it. It's kind of, for me, it had that vibe of like,
I suppose you were quite relieved, really, knowing we were on.
Oh my god, the worst thing is when someone goes, read my comic
tomorrow. I hope it's not going to be awful.
It's terrible.
The comic was really a comic that was made.
So when you see someone's, what was it they say, like if you see someone's kid and they're really ugly, you just say they have a really striking baby. So that kind of approach to it, you're essentially insulting someone's child. But it was so much fun. And it's funny as well, because when you're seeing the credits as well, it's just like colours Pye Parr. Yeah, illustration Pye Parr. So it's mostly just the two of you. In terms of having that creative control, because if you are working for a bigger company like 2000 AD or for, say, Marvel or DC, do you find having this level of creative control is quite refreshing or slightly more terrifying?
It's go on. I've not actually worked for Marvel or DC, so I don't really know. And obviously, when I was at 2000 AD, I was all the design anyway, so I was able to kind of interfere a little bit on stuff that I'd done myself. But no, I like doing everything, even though it is much more hard work. Yeah, don't pay you. Go on, Rob.
I mean, for good or ill, it's 100% hours, which is great, right? There's no, because when you do work for Marvel or DC, you get a really heavy amount of editorial input.
Yeah.
And you get notes, it's so. I think part of the reason why it is so much fun to write, and hopefully that comes across the script, is because it's pure creator owned. It is just like, we can do what we want. It's weird. On certain jobs, I think you benefit from an editor because it is healthy to have someone to kind of go, well, you might want to have another think about that,
it is useful, isn't it, to just to question decisions that you make, which it's hard to do on your own.
Yeah. But that said, there's a level of pure enjoyment, which is probably because I've been I've worked with editors and worked for DC and worked with all that type of stuff in recent years, where you do get a lot of editorial involvement. So when you can just do a create your own book like this and it's just you kind of go, oh, this is great fun. I can just relax and just go, Yeah. And I think that comes across in the comic and the tone of the comic and everything. Yeah, so interesting. But I wouldn't suggest. I think it probably works because it's a refreshing change. I think if you did every comic like this, possibly at some point you benefit from someone going, another voice basically kind of going up, let's have another look at this. Maybe you can get this bit better. But I don't think I'd change anything about Petrol Head issue 1. So
it's a great fun comic, and it feels really. It's weird to say this because it feels oddly patriotic. It feels very British, even though it's kind of got. It's to an American audience through Image. But there's something really British about it, and that's part of what I loved about it as well.
There's one line which the scene I really love where Dave the bird electrocutes a cat with a laser shot from his butt, and then Petrol Head pokes his head out the garage and he goes, "Oh, Dave, stop winding the cat up," which is such a British line. And truth be told, that's pretty much me poking my head out of my room and shouting at my kids or something like that. I think Petrol Head's something like, I'm trying to work here or something. And then, that bit is quite British, but I think we get away with it.
Oh, you totally get away with it. Well, Rob, Pye, thank you so much for coming on, talking about Petrol Head, talking about some of the comics as well that have inspired you over the years, and some of the comics that are still inspiring you. Thanks so much for the recommendations. Everyone listening, make sure you go out and pick up Petrol Head and just be thoroughly entertained. And it's a thing of beauty to behold. So make sure you pick it up. Rob, Pye, once again, thanks a lot for coming on. All right.
Thank you for having us. Cheers, mate.
Thank you. Petrol Head from Image Comics is due for release on the 8th of November 2023. Be sure to pre-order your copy to avoid disappointment.